about this month starting a new theme, and I am in love with our new book. Oh my goodness, this is it's a gift. I think it showed up in my life in the exact right moment. So I'm knowing that it's showing up in your life in the right exact moment. And there's a bunch of them in the bookstore if you want to follow along. But this month is about oneness. It's about the divine quality of oneness and what it means for us to live as if we were connected in that oneness. Because you know what? We are. And so my talk today is God and me. And the idea of the bridge between oneness and inspiration is this. What we do in Science of Mind is we talk about the fact that what we call God is not a personality. It's not the image, the old idea of the old wise white man on a cloud with a beard, right? Like there's no that who sometimes is kind and loves you, and sometimes might be judgy to you, and you better watch out and not piss him off, right? There's this idea of God as that, but that's not how we look at God. We look at God as a presence, as a spirit, as an essence and an energy. We think of God as life itself, as the pure presence. And that everything that has been created, everything that is, which includes everything you see, everything you experience, and everything that you are, is created from that essence and from that presence of spirit. So each and every one of us has been created out of the God stuff. And if you follow quantum physics, if you follow the leading edge of quantum science, they're proving this, that there's an essence, that is the pure beingness of all material creation, and it's one thing. And so there's a step there that we take to understand that essence, that presence has an intelligence. It has a life principle to it, and it's part of all that we are. And so the way that we look at God is that there is only one. That at the core we are connected to it. We are created out of it. We are continually sourced by it. And that it is pure love. That it is pure peace. That it is pure harmony and joy. And all of these truths are the foundation upon which we stand. And we as humans, as seemingly separate entities who have our own ideas about things and can choose, right? We've talked about free choice, the amazing gift that is in our lives. We can choose to recognize that, or we can choose to deny it. And my point is that when we choose to deny our truth as the presence of God is when we get in trouble. And I think that the things that are happening out in the world, the things that are troubling to many, the things that upset us in our own life path, are moments when we feel completely separate and we convince ourselves that something out there is out to get us. Something out there is against us. Something somewhere outside of our own being wants something negative for us. And it's not true. We can convince ourselves of something so much that it becomes real. That we have an experience of it. But it's not true. Because everything that happens in this life brings more God into being. Everything that we are, if we are connected to that, if we are creative beings, which we are, then we are all channels of God. And we have the choice to create in that, what I call the upward spiral. We can step into our knowing. We can step into being a space of peace. We can step into being a place of love. And what happens is it radiates out like a rock being thrown into a peaceful pond. It radiates out into our lives. It radiates out into the world. And so what happens is that we forget who we are. We forget who and whose we are. We are the divine gift to the world, and we forget that sometimes. We forget that we are connected to an infinite power. Remember, this is the presence that made the Big Bang happen. That was big. It wasn't just a bang, it was a big bang. Right? So there is a creative force that has brought forth the universe that is alive right where we are. And we deny it. We play small. We think we're these limited small selves. But there is a oneness that flows through all things. A oneness that connects us with our source. We can never be separated from God. There's a oneness that connects us to each other. If you've been here for a little bit, You've heard me talk about my new analogy for this, which is a little silly, but it works for me. Sometimes I'm a little simplistic, and I need things to be simple for me to remember. And so I'm talking about our fingers. Remember, I make you look at your fingers. And if you look at your fingers and you see that if your attention and your consciousness is in the tip of your fingers, that finger is going to think it's separate from the other ones. It's going to think, I'm the pointer finger, I'm different from the middle one. That one's got some weird issue of telling people off. And I'm different from that thumb, because let me tell you, that thumb works really hard and I want to work that hard. And it thinks it's different. We think we're different. But we forget that at the core we're connected to the hand. And think about the hand. The hand thinks it's its own thing. Let me tell you, without our hands, we love our hands, right? We do a lot of stuff with our hands. Those hands are important. But it's nothing without the arm. And it's nothing without the totality of the body. We are connected like that to the infinite source of life. We are connected like that to God. And it reminded me of the scripture from John 15, when God says, "Remain in me, and I will remain in you. Just as no branch can bear fruit by itself unless it remains in the vine, neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. The one who remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. If anyone does not remain in me, he is like a branch that is thrown away and withers." When we live separate, when we believe that we are separate, when we forget who we are, when we forget who we're connected to, it's as if we have cut ourselves off from the branch. We have cut ourselves off from the source. And we will wither, and we will struggle, and we will feel limited because we don't have that infinite power behind us. But the truth is, you can never truly be separate from God. It never goes away. It never goes away. We are constantly breathing. I love that we're talking about inspiration this month because we can remember it every time we breathe, and we breathe every minute a lot. Right? Inspiration. Just take a nice deep breath in. We are in spirit. When we are connected to that presence and remembering the truth. We want to stay in spirit, right? We don't want to go ex-spirit, because if we go that, then we expire, right? And what happens when we expire? We're not breathing anymore. We're not creating anymore. And who knows what happens in that next evolution, but that's what happens when we step out of this life. So as long as you are in this life, there is a possibility for you to be inspired, for you to be in spirit, for you to be that divine arm of the one that you have been called to be. Each and every one of us is an individualized expression of God in its fullness, in its love, in its peace, in its joy. And it's our job to breathe it into being in our lives. Now, in whatever way that looks like. It's not about, doing huge things in the world. It's not about having some big successful job. It's not about obtaining lots of wealth and stuff. It's not about that. It's about doing the best that you can do in the moment where you are, in the circle where you are, bringing more love and peace and joy and understanding wherever you are. In order to be living in inspiration, we have to be more like the divine that has sent us. And so we walk through our lives, and we walk through these experiences, and every minute we get to choose whether we want to see ourselves in that oneness, in that connection to life itself and to each other, or to choose to think that we're separate and limited, and that there's someone other, that there's the other that's different in such a way that we're afraid of it. There's a choice. We get to choose how we want to live. And I think it's obvious which one brings more peace of mind, which one brings more light to our path, which one allows for us to understand where we belong in life a little bit better. So today, God and me. God is the best friend, the most reliable support, the lover of our souls. And it's our choice as to how we relate to it. Wayne Dyer in this book says this. He said that there's a voice in the universe entreating us to remember our purpose, our reason for being here now in this world of impermanence. The voice whispers, shouts, and sings to us that this experience of being in form in space and time has meaning. That voice belongs to inspiration, which is within each and every one of us. So the goal is to live in spirit, that there is meaning to your life. And there are moments when we feel lost. There are moments when we feel like we're not productive, or our lives don't have meaning. Maybe we've lived a life and had a career and gone into that beautiful golden time of retirement and feel like we don't have as much purpose as we used to. Maybe people don't need us the same way that they did before. But that doesn't mean that your life doesn't have meaning. I've talked to many young mothers who are focused on their families and trying to make ends meet and maybe not working in the career that they had before and focusing on their family, but feeling like they're not being productive in the world. But you know what? That is the most important job that anyone could have. And the purpose of caring for our families and creating an awareness and a consciousness in our children that they are connected to their source. That's meaningful and powerful. And still we demean it because there's an idea that if you're not making a lot of money or you're not doing something important, that it doesn't count. But you know what? It counts more. Because you are doing the job that you were called to do by God. And so no matter what it is, no matter what you're experiencing, this is a time for you to realize who you are and that you do count, that you are worthy, that you have a purpose. And no matter what the experience is that you're doing around you, whether it's cleaning floors or running a company, we bring our spirit to it. And it's important. And you have meaning. And you have purpose, because you are the expression of God. And that's what it means to live in spirit. And so when I get confused or upset about something that's going on in my life or in the world around me, and I've had a lot of texts and phone calls this week, and a lot of people are suffering and over all sorts of different things that are going on. But when it gets troubling out there, what I do for myself is I go back to what I know. At the most foundational level, I remember what I know about God. So the first thing that I remember about God is that God creates. That God is a creative force. That life is a creative force, that it always unfolds. And so in any one moment, when there's something that's bothersome, when there's something that's troubling in my life, I remember that it's in process. That we are in process with something. That God is revealing itself through the process, through the experience, through life itself, and that nothing is solid and nothing is final and nothing is ever done. Because we are always evolving, we are always expanding, we are always revealing more of that life. And so I remember to see that creative process all around me. I met with one of my colleagues this week who was extremely troubled about what's happening in our government right now, and we had this we go for coffee and we get these little we complain. We have our little complaining sessions together, and then each one at different times calls us to our truth, right? Then we'll complain for a little while, and then somebody will say, okay, well, let's remember God in this, okay. And so then the other one will start to complain a little bit, the other one will say, okay, so there is a wholeness to this, okay, yeah, and so we go back and forth like a little ping pong, like a tennis match, you know. But what I commented on at the end, what came to me so strongly was, you need to plant a bean seed in a paper cup, like a kindergartner, and I said it like that. I was like, you need to plant a bean seed in a paper cup like a kindergartner. And my friend was like, what? And I was like, when we are religious scientists, what we know is that things grow, that we grow things in our lives, that we plant seeds of intention for what we want to see. And so right now, I think we should all be doing that. If you are troubled by something in your life, if there is something that's bothering you, if you're upset with what's happening in the world, I invite you to get a paper cup and a bean seed and put it on your windowsill in your kitchen and water it and care for it. Because it's going to remind you on a fundamental level that life is growing, that life creates, that something is revealing itself in the glory and the joy. Have you looked ever at what that looks like when the bean comes out? When it first starts to unfold? It's a beautiful thing. That seed pops open and it starts to move the dirt. It moves the earth itself before it unfolds. And that pure green, that new creation, that beautiful shade of green that comes out, that's life itself. And so what this little exercise is going to do for you is it's going to remind you that you are alive, that you are empowered, that you can support that creation of what you want to see in the world, of what you want to see in your life. It's how we connect to the process of God. God creates. I remember that all the time. The other thing I know about God is that it reveals itself as the qualities of being. And so we talk about, and we're doing this in Foundations right now, we're talking about looking at life in the experience we want to have through the qualities of being. So bringing more love and more peace, more harmony, more joy. Those are qualities of God, and that's how God creates. And so when there's something out in the world or in your experience that feels like the opposite of that, I say good, dig in. Because something is trying to be born there. Those qualities of the divine are trying to be born there. So if you have conflict in a relationship, you know what you're being called for? To see and to acknowledge more harmony. To find it. To bring more understanding and love. To open to acceptance and peace. We have this conversation in our classes and in the science of mind, and when we talk about the qualities of God, inevitably somebody will raise their hand and say forgiveness. And I'll be like, okay, it's a little deeper. Yes, that's good. That is a quality. It's not really a quality of God, but okay, we'll talk about that. And then the other one is acceptance. Okay, yep, all right. Yes, okay. But I want to clarify that. Forgiveness and acceptance, compassion, those words are things that we do when we live in spirit. When you are living an inspired life, when you are connected to spirit and something comes forth in your life, you can't help but practice those amazing spiritual practices of forgiveness. Because we know that there's a divine unfoldment happening. We can only accept the people who are around us who seem different than we are because we know that they're the divine emanation too. There's only one. It's God in me and God in you. Compassion is the love and understanding that we give when we realize that somebody else is stuck in their limitation and they're creating suffering in their own lives. We have compassion for that because we've been there, most of us have been, in a moment where we create some sense of limitation, some difficulty or challenge. And so how can we not have compassion? So those are amazing things that we do when we live in the truth of who we are, which is wholeness, which is oneness, which is peace, and which is love. Make sense?
Yes.
See how that works? It's hard to have compassion when we feel separate. It's hard to have compassion when we feel attacked. It's hard to be forgiving when we feel like somebody's out to get us. It's hard to do it. But when we come from that place of connection, from that place of understanding God as our life, it's easy. Because we know that something greater is evolving, something greater is being born out of it. The other thing I remember about God is that wisdom and guidance and support are all around us. Spirit leaves clues for us like breadcrumbs, in multiples, by the way. That wisdom of the divine speaks to us, and sometimes we are petulant little children going, no, I'm not hearing it, no, you know? And Spirit has to literally knock us over the head with a spiritual 2x4. Everyone's had it. You can think about those moments when God has smacked you awake. Right? When life has said enough and woken you up to where you can step into your fullness and into your power. The wisdom of God is there for us, but we just have to acknowledge it and see it. And I'll tell you this. If that wisdom is calling you to a greater way of being that scares the patootie out of you, you know you're on the right track. Because Spirit's going to call you to be your fullest self. Spirit's not going to tell you to go hide in your closet and pretend nothing's happening. That's not Spirit's wisdom. Spirit's wisdom is for you to be the fullest, most magnificent expression of who you've come here to be. Spirit's going to call you past your limitations into your magnificence. That's my other word for the month, magnificence. We have come to live magnificent lives. And whatever that means for you, you are magnificent. There's no limitation in that. There's no separation in that. There's no holding back in that. There's only you stepping into who you truly are and speaking your truth with no limitation. When we're steeped in that understanding, it's easier to step forth. So we are called to live in spirit. Patanjali, who's the father of modern yoga, said, when you are inspired, dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. You have talents, you have skills, you have opportunities that are there for you, so much greater than you could ever imagine. And it takes taking that first step. It takes allowing yourself to realize it. And so our job is to stay connected to our spiritual essence. And yet, it can be challenging. And yet, we can have moments where it's difficult. And so I always remember that example of a tree, right? I have to go deep within myself and my knowing of God in order for me to be able to be present in the world. And sometimes the things that happen out in the world make me dig really deep. Let me tell you. They make us dig really deep into knowing who we are. It's like the roots of a tree. If you go deep into your knowing, it's like if you dig down into those roots and you stand tall, the strongest tree can withstand any storm, any turbulence. But if we don't do that, if we don't discover our true nature, if we don't have a deep relationship with the God of our being, of our heart, then our roots are shallow and will be blown over by any light breeze that comes along. This week, I am a child of the 80s. I've had that image of the weebles in my head, saying weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, right? So it's in my head. I'm sorry, I had to get it out. So it's this idea that we could get, and when we're in our divine knowing, we can get pushed over, left, right, anything can happen to us, but you always what? You come up straight, because we wobble, but we don't fall down. Even when my brother would pick it up and throw it across the room, it still stands up. Right? And so when we are in spirit, when we're connected to our truth, it doesn't matter what happens around us. And so a lot in this philosophy, we talk about the law of attraction. Okay? And so a lot of people are familiar with the law of attraction. If you've taken any prosperity class, or if you've seen The Secret, that was a really popular movie a while back. They talk about the law of attraction, the thing about the law of attraction is that it has been kind of manipulated and taken over by this prosperity gospel idea that we are here to get more stuff, right? The law of attraction is not just about getting more stuff or about obtaining more money, or does it help with that? Yeah, it does. But the point of the law of attraction is that we have an opportunity to bring to us, this is how life works, that we bring to us what we are. We attract the experiences, the people, the circumstances of our lives that match who we are. And so think about that for a second. If you are living a limited, small life where you don't think you're very smart, and you don't think you have opportunities, and you don't think you have, the possibilities of doing the kinds of things that maybe in your heart you're wanting to do, you are going to attract, the universe is going to say, there you go, you get what you want. And you will attract to you those experiences that match your belief about yourself. You are telling the universe how you want to be treated. And so if you're experiencing experiencing limitation, and doors are closing at every angle, and people are not taking you seriously, and all of this is happening, it is because it is a reflection of somewhere deep inside you have a belief about yourself that's limited. But the blessing of that is that we can turn that around because it's all about us. It's all about how we relate to ourselves. Now, this is not a call to be an ego-inflated blowhole. I am awesome and I'm great, whatever, that's what's going to happen. Because you know what? That is not going to work. Did I just say blowhole at church? It's true, though. It won't work. But when you realize, when you spend the time with yourself in your mind to go beyond that inner critic, when you see yourself through the divine eyes, when you find that love that's alive within you, that divine spark that has been placed in you from before time, and you connect with it, and you begin to relate to life from that place, you attract to you that which equals that. So doors open, and there's great love, and there's deep connection, and there's infinite possibility. All nature, Ernest Holmes says, all nature rises to support the freedom of the individual, that it may unloose its own energy. God wants us to be free, because when we are free, God is free, and God is fully expressed. There is no idea that we have been sent here to suffer. We are here to be free and to create freedom for ourselves and for all those around us. But it's a step-by-step, day-by-day process to get to that place, because you know what? We have spent however many years, you fill in your blank, everybody's got a different number of years in this room, in this culture that wants to keep us small, that wants to keep us manageable, that has taught us that we are X, Y, Z, you fill in the blank. Not old enough, not young enough, not pretty enough, not smart enough, not capable enough. We lived in the wrong place, we didn't go to the right schools, blah, 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 blah. There's all of this idea of limitation that we have to, day by day, moment by moment, thought by thought, start to prove that it's wrong. None of those ideas are really true and valid. But we have to acknowledge that it's a process of unfolding. One of the best ways to do that is your spiritual practice. That's why I am so hoping that this meditation class goes. They need 8 people in to do it. So we need to have 8 names signed up for the class to run, or 8 people to show up at least tomorrow for this class to run. If you want to create an opportunity for yourself to know who you are, meditation is one of the best ways to do it. Prayer is the other. Meditation and prayer. Just come. Give yourself the gift to start to know who you are, to allow for these doors to begin to open. And step by step, you can start to realize your true nature. And so the founder of religious science, Ernest Holmes, I have a quote from him, and it's a big one, so I wrote it, I put it up on the board. He says this: "We can be certain that there is an intelligence in the universe to which we may come, that will guide and inspire us, a love which overshadows. God is real to the one who believes in the Supreme Spirit, real to the soul that senses its unity with the whole." Oh, forgot the second one. "Every day and every hour we are meeting the eternal realities of life, and in such degree as we cooperate with these eternal realities in love, in peace, in wisdom, and in joy, believing and receiving, we are automatically blessed. Our prayer is answered before it's uttered." So this month, as I invite you to discover your oneness with God and life and all of creation, begin by living inspired in spirit. Find a way every day to connect with that truth. Even with each and every breath that you take, you have an opportunity to remember, I am God's emanation. And this breath is my life, which is the life of God. When we sense our unity with the wholeness of life, everything begins to change. I invite you to meet yourself at the deepest of levels and realize how magnificent you truly are. And so it is.